Take a look at how to install and uninstall something on a Mac. It's pretty easy to do. I want to let you know that if you're installing something that is going to be like a service, like you see these little icons on the top bar here. These are OneDrive, and there's my virus scanner. Anything that really gets installed that starts up when the computer comes up usually has some files that need to be placed in other locations, and so it'll have an installer app. And so when you download something, there's a couple of ways for it to download. Let's take a look here in downloads. There's a couple of ways to download something. You'll either have an image, IMG file right here, or you'll actually have a PKG, which is a package file. If I can see one of those here as well. I've got one in here someplace. There we are. Zoom got installed. Those are two different ways to install something on a Mac. When you run a PKG, you see this little thing coming out of the box. It runs through a normal setup like you would in Windows. People are very used to seeing that. When you run something like an IMG file, that's an image file of a hard disk, the install works differently. And so I've actually got this downloading. Whoops, let's get that. Got this downloading Firefox, and Firefox is already installed, but I thought it's a good idea to show you how. That's a good way to show you how. So it says, okay, you've chosen to open this thing. This is a DMG file. Do you want to open it with Disk Image Mounter or just save the file? Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell it to open it with Disk Image Mounter so you can just see what happens. Once it's downloaded, it'll actually mount this image like it's actually a drive on the computer. If I save the file, it would save it, and then I'd have to go and do what it's doing now. I'd have to go double click it, and then it would go ahead and mount it. So once it mounts this little tiny drive that really is a file, right? The computer's seeing it as a drive, but it's really a file. It opens up this little window. And this is just a fancy little navigate the computer window. That's all this is. And you can tell that we've got a Firefox icon here, and then this squiggly arrow, and then the shortcut to the applications folder. If I double click that, it opens the applications folder right there. And that's basically what's happening, is it's telling the person, drag this and dump it onto the applications folder, and you're done. It copied it. Now the reason why that's the case is because they call these things packages, but basically what you've got is a directory, and underneath that is a bunch of subdirectories of the actual program. Like here's the icon files right there. And so there's a bunch of subdirectories under here, just like you would find in Windows. They've just created this real fancy way, easy way of installing something. You just simply drag it and drop it. As a matter of fact, when you install Microsoft Office, it'll actually say, hey, you can go through the install procedure, or you can just drag this folder onto your computer, because it gets installed from that. And that also makes it easy. So if you actually copy this and paste it someplace, it pastes that whole directory structure wherever you want it. This does confuse people. I've had a lot of students that once they get to this point, they don't know what to do. They don't know that this is telling them, dump this icon in the application folder and you're done. And so they'll just launch it from here. And part of that problem is it works. Actually, this will start up, and I'll actually have two different versions, or the same version really, of Firefox running. This is running, and this will run. That's a unique thing about Unix. You can actually take the same application and run it as many times as you want, so long as they're in different locations on the computer. Where in Windows, you can't do that. That'll just screw stuff up. You can only have that app installed one place. This is their security saying, hey, you downloaded this from the internet. Are you sure you want to do that? And so it's their way of letting you know that you're doing this at your own risk. Now I'm going to go ahead and close this. And there it is, Firefox. I'm going to say continue. And Firefox is running, and this Firefox is running. See, they're both running. And that's not a separate browser window. That's two different installations of Firefox. So I'll go ahead and close this because I don't want that open. Close the tabs. And so on our desktop I know it's a lot of confusing thing. We've got the Macintosh hard drive here, an install, and notice here this is the Firefox install. If I double click it, you'll see, oh, that's that familiar window that we were looking at. So when I'm done installing it, this thing will stay there forever until I tell it to eject, because it again, it's a file, but it thinks of it like it's actually a hard disk. And so that's confusing, but it's also extremely easy to deal with. You just drag and drop it and it's done. Getting rid of an application, see if I go to the applications folder here, which I did have open, apparently this is not going to work for me. I did an update, and so that's no longer working unless somebody updates it. So I'm going to take and drag and drop this into the trash, and it'll say, hey, are you sure you want to do that? And I'll say, yeah, go ahead and do it. And it's uninstalled. Almost everything on here, if I want to get rid of Excel, I can just simply drag and drop this to the trash, and it'll say, are you sure you want to do that? And it's uninstalled. Excel is not on there anymore. So it's a very easy way to do that. Now, of course, at the same time, as long as I don't empty the trash, I can come into the trash and there's a bunch of stuff in here that I've got. And I can grab Excel right here, and I can either drag and drop it wherever I want, or I can put it back. And it'll say, are you sure you want to do that? Because I'm not running as an admin. I try not to run as an admin on my computers so that you don't get infested. And there it is. It's back where it was. Easy to install and uninstall unless it's actually one of these things, right? There's going to be, this is my Sophos virus scanning stuff. So in order to remove that, I'm going to have to actually run their uninstall that's a part of Sophos to completely remove it. So I just wanted to show you that's how that happens on a Mac. If you have any questions, if you're using a Mac, got more questions, or you know somebody that's using a Mac, of course we covered this in 113. Any case, take care.